I spend a lot of time thinking about jobs, and I'm in the economic development business, and I work with communities across the country that are trying to grow their economies or look for ways to be sustainable, look for ways to build their tax base so that they can pay for the streets and the libraries and the parks and everything that we in our communities love. And with that, comes good paying jobs. I mean, that's the goal of economic development. You really want to have good paying jobs for those that are in your community. So I spend a lot of time thinking about jobs. So a couple of weeks ago, I decided to Google the definition of a job. So the first thing that came up on the list was an Urban Dictionary definition. So be ready. So the means by which at least 30% of your life is stolen from you to enrich the owners of a company, making useless stuff that some other poor idiot in a job will die by. So I have teenagers at my house, and I showed them this definition. I said, it's from Urban Dictionary. And of course, my teenagers are like, Dad, you've got to be very careful when you're searching on Urban Dictionary. That's the place you're going to start. So the next definition that came up was a Merriam-Webster dictionary, the work that a person does regularly in order to earn money. This will seem like a reasonable one. It's simple, it's clear. But in my business, the definition that I have to work with looks like this. So I'm not expecting anybody in the room to read this definition. It's a technical definition. It's the one used by the government, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, to look at, if you hear a report that says there were 170,000 jobs created in the economy last month, this is the definition they're using. Unemployment's dropped to 5.1%. This is the definition that they're using. In December of 2007, the U.S. entered the deepest recession that we've experienced since World War II. And how many of you are excited to talk about the recession? Yes, I knew it. But it led to a financial meltdown in 2008. There were business failures. People lost their jobs. People lost their retirement plans. It was a really challenging time. And I know you're thinking, well, this is old news, Tom. We're out of that recession. But I'm here to tell you that it's still with us, and it's impacting our labor market to this day. And so I want to talk about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this last recession, compared to the previous 5 recessions. So the 74 to 76 recession, we lost about 2.5%, 3% of our jobs, lasted for about 2 years. The 1980 recession, we lost about 1%, lasted for a year, but it was followed by a recession in 81, 83 that lasted a couple of years. It was a little bit deeper and a little bit longer. There was a recession from 1990 to 1993, relatively shallow, but a little bit longer. You're starting to see a trend here. 2001 to 2005, that's what we refer to as the dot bomb or the dot-com recession. Shallow but long. Here's the last recession. So we lost over 6% of our employment base, and it took us 6.5 years to recover that, to recover those jobs. So that happened last May of 2014. So we thought it would be interesting, after the recession started, to map it. We said, what's going on with the metros around the country? And so we created a map. Jobs are growing in this metro, they're shrinking in this metro, red and blue colors. We thought it was really interesting. The next month came along, we mapped it again. The next month came along, we mapped it again, and we thought, wow, wouldn't it be interesting if we could animate this and put it on the web? And so that's when we created the geography of jobs. And so in the upper left-hand corner is a timeline, a time date stamp. And in a moment, you're going to see this move. You're going to see red bubbles. You're going to see blue bubbles. The red bubble, lost jobs for the last 12 months. Blue bubble means that you've gained jobs for the last 12 months. So are you with me so far? All right. So when I hit the play button, this is going to start in January of 2004 because that was the end of the last recession. And I wanted to show some patterns before our recession started. So here we go. So we're in 2004, and I'm going to stop it in June of 2005 because I want to point something out. Most of the country is blue. Most of the metros have gained jobs over the last 12 months. We've come out of the previous recession strong. Housing starts, access to money, subprime mortgages, all available to us, so we're spending money. It's a good sign. It's a good sign. I'm going to take us on the journey here again. Whoa. So what's happened here? This looks like New Orleans. Can anybody tell me? Katrina. That's right. Significant impact. Very traumatic there. We actually just celebrated or commemorated the 10th anniversary of Katrina earlier this year. Here we go again. Detroit. Look what's going on up in the Midwest. This is long before the recession actually starts. And I'm going to stop it again now in March of 2008, because the stock market crisis, the financial crisis, actually didn't start till later in the year. But you'll notice a couple of things. One, obviously, the Detroit area and automotive is hit pretty hard. But look at Florida. Housing bubble is popping there. Look over at California. Look at Phoenix. The housing bubble has essentially popped. And so I'm going to push play again and get ready for the ride. So we're late 2008. Stock market gets hit right about now. And if you're squeamish, you might want to close your eyes, because it's not pretty. So I've stopped it again in June 2009 for a reason. Two things happen. One is this is the bottoming out of the recession in terms of jobs. But it is actually the official end of the recession from an economic standpoint. The country is starting to grow again from an output standpoint. So we're starting to grow again, but obviously we're at the bottom of that jobs impact. So it's significant. And now I'm going to let it play out. By 2010, companies are feeling confident again. They're starting to purchase equipment again. They're starting to create jobs again. But one thing I'll point out is that these bubbles represent a 12-month sort of rolling jobs number. It was designed to show the impact. And so these are 12 months that are kind of rolling along. But you'll notice there's quite a few red bubbles in there. Some are going back and forth. It's still a little bit bumpy. And so what we did at the end of it is we said, that showed a rolling average. What about the cumulative? And so we created something called the geography of recovery. And so I'm not actually going to play this one, but what you'll notice here is that this starts in December of 2007 to the present, and we look at who's recovered and who hasn't from that time. And so the U.S. overall has actually recovered and gained 3% jobs on top of that, but there are still 120 metros in the country that have not recovered the jobs that were lost during that recession. 120. And I'm here to say that the disruption is not just a geographic disruption. It's also impacted the kinds of jobs that are created. A lot of the recovery came from low-wage jobs. So if you look at this, low-wage jobs have led the recovery. Right behind that's high-wage jobs, but behind that are the middle-wage jobs, so it's really important to us. Another interesting fact is that many communities, those especially that are expanding, employers are saying they're having a difficult time finding certain skill sets. There are certain jobs that are going unfilled because they can't find the people to match up with those jobs. This recession had an impact beyond just job losses. It kind of changed up much of the structure. It really created a new geography of jobs. So I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes. The more you want things to stay the same, the more that you're going to have to be willing to change. And I tell this to the communities that I work with. If you're going to be successful, if you're a company, you're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to restructure. You may have to automate. And you may have to pay more to get those skills that you need. If you're a job seeker, you may have to think about contracting. Or you may have to actually go to work for one of the larger companies and spend a little time and get some experience. You may have to create your own job, but one thing for sure, you're going to have to see yourself as a lifelong learner, because the market's going to continue to change. And if you don't embrace that, you're not going to be successful. And the last thought, in this new geography of jobs, if you're a community, you're going to have to acknowledge that this is a new jobs market, and you're going to have to embrace, as one of your top strategies, talent retention talent development, and talent attraction. Thank you very much.